right, so if you see me walking around funny up here, please don't make fun of me. I sprained my ankle at my last church camp, and it wasn't while playing football. It was actually while celebrating a touchdown. So if that's not a lesson in humility, I'm not sure what is. But that's unrelated. I'm going to be continuing on the topic of faith, as Summer was touching on, and my title is God's Way is Greater Than My Way. I'll be focusing on how the outcome that God has meant for us may be different than how we see it coming to pass, but ultimately He knows what's best for us because He can see things in the supernatural that we can't always see in the natural. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Zane Turner, and I just graduated. I was a high school athlete. Do we have any other high school athletes over here? Like 4 of them, great, okay. Well, I played baseball most of my life, and I wrestled all of high school. A good indicator is my neck is as thick as my head, if you couldn't tell. And so anyone who's participated in sports knows that you have to train to become better. And this process can become very repetitive. And this was the case for me in wrestling, where I got in this rigorous cycle that was really mentally and physically demanding, especially with school and strict dieting on top of it. And the way I would push through these when it would get too difficult was by having a goal set in mind. And my dream for all 4 years of high school was to become a state qualifier. So as I was in these moments and these practices where I was just exhausted and tired, I would have this picture in my head of a 3-step process to get to that goal. And it was become a district champion, place top 3 at regionals, and become a state qualifier. And I worked my butt off for hours a day to achieve this goal. And by the time the season finally came to an end, I achieved step 1 and became a district champion. And it came time for regionals, where I found myself in that 3rd place match. Everything seemed to be going exactly how I wanted it to, and the process was going the right way, and I just wanted that last result. And I put everything into this match, probably one of the best I've ever competed in my life, and I ended up losing by 1 point. And in that moment, I was devastated because I felt like all of that work was for nothing, because that was that roadblock in my mind and the way I'd seen it coming to be. But what I didn't see was the blessing and the plan that God had in store for me. So I fortunately got to end up wrestling for a lower placement that still got me that title as a state qualifier. And there was a blessing in store for me that I missed out on because of my stubbornness. So there's actually a picture that might be up here. So when I came up to the stands and I won that match, my family was embracing me, hugging me, encouraging me, and congratulating me for accomplishing my goal. But I was so set on my way and how I wanted it done that I was completely absent for that moment, and I wasn't present the way I could have been to enjoy it. So that leads me to my scripture, which is Proverbs 16:9. It says, "We can plan our ways, but the Lord determines our steps." I'll say that one more time. We can plan our ways, but the Lord determines our steps. This leads me to see that God allows us to plan things and set goals for our lives, but ultimately it's His plan that's going to prosper. So for my first point is to give God complete control. And I don't mean some control, I mean all control. I'm going to have Colton up here so I can demonstrate this illustration that Pastor Parker showed us one day at an internship meeting that really simplified this for me. And say the water bottle's our life and Colton is God, if you can picture that. Sorry. So whenever we go to give our lives to God, a lot of times we want to keep our hand on it so that we can still have a say, because there's things that we want to hold back from Him, and we still want to be able to direct our lives. Now, God's all powerful, so He can still move it whichever way He wants, and He can nudge us in the right direction. But it's not until we completely let go that He can actually take over and work and shape and mold our lives into what He sees for us. I probably should have chose someone shorter. That was kind of embarrassing. And then my second and final point is this: give God room to operate. If we stay comfortable doing the exact same thing every day, we will never be able to grow. We have to expand our horizons and get out of our comfort zone so that God can work in us and through us to grow as people and for others. So a revelation I had recently was something that Micah shared in a huddle, and it really helped me with a misconception that I had growing up, and you've probably heard the same thing, was that God gives us problems and struggles and obstacles in our life that we are strong enough to overcome. And I would get stuck on things thinking, I can always get through this later because God wouldn't have given it to me if I couldn't handle it. But Micah said this, and he said that is completely untrue, that God actually intentionally gives us problems, obstacles, and struggles in our life that we aren't strong enough to overcome, so that we then must rely on him to grow in our faith and to overcome it through him to grow into the people that he intended us to be. And that leads me back to my title, that God's way is greater than my way. He knows all things. He created all things. So his result may be different than how we want to see it, but ultimately it's going to come with more blessings and more success than we ever could have imagined. Just like that result that I had, looking back on it, it was way better than everything I could have imagined, but I was so set on my result that I couldn't even see the blessings he had in store for me. Thank you all.